Thanksgiving was supposed to be the highlight of my year. It always had been. Family, food, and the comfort of home. But last year was different. Last year, I spent Thanksgiving at my cousin Erica's house, and it was the most terrifying night of my life. Erica had recently moved into an old Victorian home in upstate New York. The place was massive, towering windows, creaky wooden floors, and that slightly musty smell that hinted at its age. She had invited the whole family to celebrate Thanksgiving there, eager to show off her new home. The house looked like something out of a movie, especially with the autumn leaves scattered across the yard and the cozy glow of lights coming from the windows. But there was something about it that didn't sit right with me from the start. Maybe it was the eerie quiet that surrounded the house, or the way the shadows seemed to stretch and bend inside. I brushed it off as my imagination. It was just an old house, after all. Dinner started off normally enough. We laughed, shared stories, and stuffed ourselves with turkey, stuffing, and pie. But as the night wore on, the atmosphere started to change. It began with the power flickering. It was subtle at first, just a quick dimming of the lights that everyone ignored. But then it happened again and again. My uncle joked about the house being haunted, but Erica quickly dismissed it, blaming the outdated wiring. Then around 9 p.m., the power went out completely. The house plunged into darkness, and all of us scrambled to find our phones for light. Erica apologized profusely, saying this had never happened before. She went to the basement to check the breaker, while the rest of us waited in the dim glow of candlelight. That's when I first heard it. It was faint, like a soft tapping sound coming from somewhere upstairs. I thought maybe one of the kids was playing a prank, but when I looked around, I saw all of them sitting on the couch, their eyes wide with fear. "Did you hear that?" I asked my mom, who was sitting next to me. She nodded, her face pale. The tapping grew louder, turning into a series of uneven footsteps. They were slow, deliberate, and coming from above us. Everyone fell silent, straining to listen. "Is someone upstairs?" My aunt whispered, her voice trembling. "No one's up there," Erica said as she returned from the basement, a flashlight in hand. "The power's out in the whole house. The breaker didn't trip." We all stared at her, the footsteps still echoing above us. Erica's face hardened as she tried to reassure us. "It's an old house. Probably the pipes or something." But none of us believed her. The sound was unmistakable. It was footsteps. Heavy, deliberate footsteps moving from one end of the upstairs hallway to the other. My cousin Mark, always the brave one, grabbed a flashlight and said, "I'll go check it out." He tried to laugh it off, but I could hear the nervousness in his voice. "I'll go with you," I said, more to convince myself I wasn't scared than to actually help him. Together, we climbed the creaking staircase, the beams groaning under our weight. The air felt colder up there, and the smell of the house, dusty and faintly metallic, was stronger. We checked every room, the bedrooms, the guest bathroom, even the attic. There was no one there. But as we stood in the last room, a chill ran down my spine. I swear I could feel someone watching us, even though the room was empty. "Let's go back downstairs," Mark muttered, his bravado gone. As we turned to leave, the door to the room slammed shut behind us. We both jumped, Mark yanking the door open to reveal the empty hallway. We bolted down the stairs, not saying a word to the others as we rejoined the group in the living room. "Nothing," Mark said, his voice shaking. "There's no one up there." But the footsteps started again. This time, they were faster, almost frantic, pounding back and forth across the upstairs hallway. Erica tried to explain it away again, but no one was buying it. My aunt grabbed her kids and said she wanted to leave, but when she tried to open the front door, it wouldn't budge. "It's stuck," she said, pulling harder. "Here, let me try," Mark said, stepping forward. He grabbed the doorknob and yanked, but it didn't move. It was like the door had been bolted shut from the outside. At this point, panic set in. The kids were crying, my mom was praying under her breath, and Erica looked like she was about to lose it. I suggested we call the police, but when I pulled out my phone, I noticed something strange. There was no signal. And it wasn't just me. Everyone's phones had lost service. That's when we heard it, a low, guttural growl coming from the top of the stairs. It wasn't like any sound I'd ever heard before. It was deep, almost inhuman, and it made every hair on my body stand on end. We all turned to look at the staircase, but there was nothing there, just darkness. And then we saw it. A shadowy figure emerged at the top of the stairs, barely illuminated by the flickering candlelight. It was tall, hunched over, and its limbs were too long, too thin. Its head tilted unnaturally to the side, as if it were studying us. We froze, too terrified to move as the figure slowly descended the stairs. The room felt ice cold, and the air grew thick, almost suffocating. My mom started whispering prayers, and Mark grabbed a fireplace poker, holding it out like a weapon. The figure stopped halfway down the stairs and let out another growl, louder this time. It was so loud it seemed to shake the walls. Then, without warning, the candles blew out, plunging us into total darkness. I don't remember much after that. There was chaos, screaming, running, someone tripping and falling. I remember grabbing one of the kids and bolting for the kitchen, hoping to find another way out. When I tried the back door, it opened without resistance. We didn't stop running until we were halfway down the street. One by one, the rest of the family joined us, everyone out of breath and in shock. We huddled together on the sidewalk, staring back at the house. The lights were back on now, every window glowing brightly as if nothing had happened. We didn't go back for our coats, our bags, or even our cars. We just left. The next day, Erica called a locksmith to check the front door. He said there was nothing wrong with it. It should have opened easily. She moved out of that house a week later. None of us talked about what happened that night again, but we didn't have to. We all knew what we saw, and none of us wanted to relive it. Thanksgiving used to be my favorite holiday. Now, I spend it quietly at home, just me and a frozen dinner. I'm not taking any chances.